In terms of the other best practice, I thought I would just share with you some of the other aspects that you need to really keep in mind when you do the estimation, and more so with Agile. So I'll just spend maybe about the 5 minutes or so, and then we can wrap this up. So first thing is it's very important for you to understand and define and specify clearly what is in scope and what is out of scope. If you ask me, defining what is out of scope is more important than what is in scope, because well, we all know what is this, but then suddenly you say, hey, you know what, don't worry about payments, because that's something which we can actually try and work out with a third party. So don't worry about the payments, just focus on the order processing, focus on the shopping catalog, and then the checkout process. So these are the things that we need to worry. That suddenly gives you a lot of clarity, right, on what to focus on and what not to. And then you can actually just look at things that are in your control. So similarly, you can actually say for the shopping cart, you know what, let's not use the, let's not build that, because it will take a long time and we don't know how much complexity. We will rather use the Magenta, which is a very well-known thing. We'll just use their shopping cart and let's worry about the other things. And Magenta being an open source, we can actually try and plug in other tools and other functionality. We can develop the rest of the functionality and just use the Magenta shopping cart for this one. Okay, fair enough. That's good. So with that understanding, you just need to understand how much of effort would it take to integrate, to interface with that, and then code it in terms of the branding, the white labeling, and stuff like that. So all of that, again, I'm just bringing you some aspect of what is in scope. There's an example from one of the projects that I did some time ago. So you're talking about what is the core and what is the add-on. So it's important you look at what constitutes the core function or the core product, and then what is the additional stuff, what is extraneous to that, what is outside that, what is need to have. This is the need to have, the core, and this is the nice to have. You can always worry about this document management, procurement, you know what, that's all fine, don't worry about it. But let's first focus on this, very core of it. This is finance, important. Project costing, very important. Procurement, getting the detailing inside. And then we need to look at the HR. We need to actually have the reporting. We need to have report engine, or something like a reporting cube, which would actually give the slicing and dicing of the data. So all of these are important. So they're within the scope, whereas these could actually be kind of nice to have. So accordingly, you can kind of, estimate and take the things which are important and which are urgent. So important and urgent, that's the measure for you to kind of take those. If it's important but not urgent, why do you spend time to do that? So you actually take sprint by sprint in Agile. That's why we actually work in terms of the sprint by sprint, not in terms of the entire thing in one go. Again, we discussed this in detail. Productivity, very important. So you need to think in terms of productivity. In the context of Agile, it means velocity, right? So we discussed this velocity as a productivity measure. So again, don't worry about the specifics of an engineer or one particular new person coming into the team. It's about the overall team productivity. And this is not about finding fault. You said you would take 5 days, but you took like 15 days, still it's not done. Why not? It's not about finding fault with one person, but it's about the team owning that thing and then say, okay, you know what? I think you are new to that technology. Let me come in and help you with that. So that's the teamwork. That's the kind of, I've got some spare time. I finished my job, my task. I've got about 3 more days for me to work to complete the sprint, but I've got this 3 days, spare time. So I can work on this. I can look at your code and see what can be done. So it's all about that subjectivity, that kind of humane thing coming into the picture. And relative estimation is important. It's not about the absolute size. Nobody really bothers about the detailing. Today, whatever you quote would be completely different tomorrow, because a lot of things are changing. The external environment is changing, the internal factors, there are a lot of new challenges coming in. So nobody's going to put a gun to your temple and say, tell me what it is, otherwise I'm going to shoot off, right? It's not going to be like that. It's about, just give me a rough idea in terms of how much size, what size it is, how much it would cost, how much it would time it would take. So you're talking about the relative sizing in that context. So don't worry too much about absoluteness. Don't worry too much about getting it perfect. It's all about getting it to a stage where everyone has an agreement. Yes, okay, that's fine. Let's work on that, deliver it, and then you can always go back and improve on that, right? We were talking about Apple's products and Google's products. how they do that. They just start off with a beta, they launch it, and then once they get the beta launch and everything goes well, then they improve on that. They actually come up with a newer version of the same, and come up with a better version, the mini release or the mega release, the kind of big release, the major release. So you can always have that based on your release strategy. You can always work on how you can work it out. Again, it's all about the t-shirt sizing. I thought I would touch upon this as well. You will come across this very often. So I'll just spend about a couple of minutes on this. Very, very easy. It's all about typical t-shirt sizing. We discussed this yesterday, that the t-shirt sizes, even though they're standard, but the t-shirt size in the EU, Europe and UK would be different from the US and those from Asia. So you just need to understand that kind of relative sizing. So it's not really standard that way. So you fix something as what is this extra small might mean, the small might mean. So you actually have that kind of a benchmark, or instead of these ones, you can actually use numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you actually say, when you read the story or a task, or it could be changes, it could be defects. Again, going back to the definition of item we were talking about, you can estimate anything, not just a requirement, not just a story. You can estimate a defect, you can estimate the change request, you can estimate a new requirement, all of these, a task, all of these could be the technical task, all of these could be estimated. And then in terms of the estimation, then again, this is pretty much similar to planning poker. So you actually go around the table and then get an idea in terms of what they think about it. Then somebody, instead of a 1 or instead of a 5, they might say M, L or whatever. And then you note it down, then you get to the stage where you have a consensus. So it's pretty much the same, but this is more of a finger in the air, as what they say, rough estimate, rough idea, even before we actually get into the story points. So this is definitely a good kind of exercise to be involved with. Very fairly early, not much of you don't really put in the numbers there. You just say, oh, it could be a rough medium, it could be a large. I think it's a large. Why do you think? It's because of this thing. Okay, then let's go with a large. So the functionality itself could actually have a large thing, but how does that translate into the specific number of points might be discussed